Wow, that's a community really struggling. The instability just cycles through generations.
It really does. And that...
Welcome back to the Deep Dive.
Good to be here.
So today we're looking at something I think a lot of us wonder about.
Yeah.
How all the national political noise, the economic ups and downs, how does that actually land in real communities, real people's lives?
Right. And we're digging into that using Beth Macy's book, Paper Girl. She used her hometown, Urbana, Ohio, as a sort of microcosm.
Yeah, a microcosm of what she calls a fractured America. It's powerful stuff.
It really is. And our goal here is to get past the big headlines, and see what Macy actually found on the ground.
And it wasn't just like a standard reporting assignment for her, was it? It started with something deeply personal.
Exactly. A family crisis, actually. That's what kicked the whole thing off. And wow, it immediately shows just how deep these divides run.
It's a tough story. She went back home because her mother was dying. This was back in 2020.
Right.
And the politics, the fracture, it just slammed right into that moment, the worst possible time.
Yeah, the source describes this scene. It's the Saturday after the 2020 election. Her mom's in hospice, last breaths.
Uh-huh.
And the nurse, just trying to make conversation, mentions Biden won the election call.
And Macy's sister, who Macy notes was evangelical, but never political before, just instantly says, it's fraudulent, he won't win.
Right there.
I mean, can you imagine that division, that chasm opening up right as their mother is passing?
It really shows you how much this stuff has seeped into everything. And Macy's experience, feeling so alone in that moment, it's not unique.
No, it seems like it's reflecting something bigger.
Definitely. The sources mention this startling stat. Something like 20% of Americans are estranged from family because of politics.
20%. Wow.
So Macy spent 2 years back in Urbana, really embedding herself, trying to figure out, what was left of the town, the people she knew.
So when she did start spending more time there, what did she see? What had changed on the surface?
Well, visually some things were jarring. Confederate flags popping up in a town known for being on the Underground Railroad.
That's, quite a shift.
And just conversationally, she mentions relatives couldn't even agree on basic facts anymore. Not just politics, but even like the weather, what was causing storms.
No common ground at all. But how did that square with the town's public image? Wasn't Urbana supposed to be doing okay?
Yeah, that's the really deceptive part. On the surface, it looked pretty good. It had actually won a Best Hometown in Ohio award.
Oh, really?
Yeah, looked like Mayberry. Some nice new shops, things happening downtown, appealing on the surface.
Okay, so there's this facade. But what happened when she looked, just beneath that? A block or two away, as the source says.
That's where the image just crumbled. She started looking at the actual data for the town, and it was bad, really bad. Over just 10 years, high school graduation rates had plummeted.
Plummeted?
And the number of kids needing foster care, it had tripled.
Tripled in 10 years. That's a huge indicator of stress.
Absolutely. And listen to this. The police chief told her that emergency calls for mental health crises had gone up by a factor of 9. 9 times higher over 40 years.
9 times. You can feel the strain just hearing that number. So the community fabric was fraying badly.
Completely. And it led to this social split. One local described it really bluntly.
How so?
Said the town was basically divided into 2 groups now. The country club set and the ghetto set.
Wow.
And because that middle ground, the middle class, had kind of disappeared, these 2 groups just had no idea what was going on in the other's world. Total disconnect.
Which makes you think about the things that should connect people, like the local newspaper, right? That's central to Macy's story, the paper girl idea.
Exactly. It's a really powerful metaphor for what's been lost.
She delivered that paper as a kid. Is it still around?
Technically, yes.
Yeah.
But it's a shadow of its former self. Owned by a hedge fund now.
Ah.
Staffed by maybe 1.5 reporters, she says. They can't even cover city council meetings anymore.
So the basic function of local news, just keeping people informed about their own town, it's gone.
Pretty much. And you see the effect. This civic void opens up. Macy's digging up crucial stuff like that explosion in foster care numbers.
Yeah.
And people living right there. Had no clue. Didn't know what was happening just a mile down the road.
But at the same time, they were plugged in, just elsewhere. Often into some pretty toxic stuff online.
That's the paradox. Disconnected locally, but hyper-connected nationally, sometimes to really damaging sources. Which brings us to maybe the most alarming personal story in the book.
The ex-boyfriend.
Yeah. This guy she dated, who she describes as having been, super liberal, a Bernie Sanders supporter even.
Okay.
He just went down the rabbit hole, deep into QAnon, other conspiracies. Macy says he was watching 4 to 7 hours of, quote, Russian propaganda every single day.
4 to 7 hours daily.
That's what she reports. And it wasn't just him sitting at home. He became a public figure locally.
Doing what?
He actually became a leader in this pushback against Haitian migrants in a nearby city, Springfield. Got visible enough that he ended up on PBS NewsHour.
Wow. From liberal X to anti-immigrant figurehead on national news. That's quite a transformation.
It shook Macy profoundly. She cut off contact. And things got so tense, a friend of hers on the police force told her she should probably carry a gun.
Whoa.
Yeah. She writes about feeling like they were on the verge of being in a civil war. That's how real and scary the division felt right there in her life.
That really drives home the personal cost. But it wasn't just about, say, media consumption or cultural shifts, right?
Right.
She also points to concrete policy decisions.
Oh, absolutely. She argues that a lot of this decline, this loss of opportunity, is rooted in deliberate policy choices. The Pell Grant story is a key example for her.
Right, this feels critical. She benefited hugely from a Pell Grant herself.
Yeah, she grew up poor. When she went to college, tuition was way lower, like $2,300 a year. She got a full Pell Grant.
And it changed everything for her.
She says it saved her life, allowed her to get an education, build a stable career. And she makes the point, it's a great investment for the country, too. She figures she's paid it back 100 times over in taxes.
But that system changed. Why? What happened to the Pell Grant?
It got drastically scaled back relative to cost. She calculates that if she'd been born just 15 years later with the same family income, that same grant would only cover about 30% of tuition costs.
30% instead of full coverage. That's a massive barrier erected right there. Was it just about budgets, or was there an ideology behind cutting that aid?
Macy argues it was deeply ideological. It wasn't just about saving money, it was about who deserved opportunity.
She points a finger somewhere specific, doesn't she?
She does. She mentions William Bennett, who was Reagan's Secretary of Education.
Right.
And Bennett apparently dismissed the whole idea that helping a poor kid go to college was good for America, called it sociological flimmy.
Flee-me. So a belief that public investment in individual opportunity like that wasn't worthwhile.
Exactly. And Macy connects that thinking directly to current policy debates. Things like proposals you hear about, wanting to dissolve the Department of Education entirely, ideas associated with groups like Project 2025.
So she sees a direct line from past policy shifts to present-day efforts to dismantle those very structures. It's systemic.
Yeah, it's not accidental neglect in her view. It's a long-term structural disinvestment in pathways for people who start out without advantages.
Okay, so we've got civic structures like media weakening and opportunity structures like education funding being cut. How does that manifest day-to-day on the ground?
Well, she found this really interesting and depressing parallel. Factory owners she talked to, they were desperate for workers but complained about terrible attendance issues.
People not showing up for work.
Right. And then she looked at the schools.
Let me guess. Same problem.
Exactly the same problem. High absenteeism among students. It was the same families. Kids not making it to school, their parents not making it to work.
Wow, that's a community really struggling. The instability just cycles through generations.
It really does. And that economic instability, the job losses, that ties directly into another crisis Macy's known for covering.
The opioid epidemic.
Yes. She draws a clear line. The very communities where those factory jobs disappeared were the ones heavily targeted by Big Pharma.
Why those specific places? Was there a strategy?
There was. It was quite calculated, according to the sources. They targeted areas with lots of people on Medicaid who had documented workplace injuries from those disappearing factory jobs.
Ah, so they had existing pain, existing prescriptions, and a system, Medicaid, to pay for more drugs.
Precisely. Those communities were vulnerable targets for the pitch that these opioids were non-addictive. The job loss created the vulnerability, and the injury data provided the entry point for the drug companies.
It's just layer upon layer of structural failure. So faced with all this, the media void, the policy failures, the social breakdown, what does Macy see as the way forward? What needs to happen?
Her solutions are focused on rebuilding those structures. Supporting real local journalism is key for her.
Makes sense, given the paper girl theme.
Right. Getting more engaged politically, trying to get better people elected to local office, and really fighting to shore up public education, pushing back against things like private school vouchers that she sees as draining resources from the public system that needs help the most.
It's about reinvesting in those common foundations. But with local news especially so gutted, how does that crucial reporting even happen now? Who connects the dots?
Well, in a way, Macy started doing it herself. She couldn't just report the problem. She felt she had to step into that gap. She uses her Substack now to do that kind of deep local reporting, showing exactly how policy decisions, budget cuts, affect individual lives in places like Urbana. She calls herself basically a paper girl at heart, still delivering the news people need.
That's fascinating. And she uses specific stories to make these connections, right? To show what's at stake.
Yes, absolutely. The story of Ebony is a really powerful example of how safety net programs can work and why cutting them is so dangerous.
Tell us about Ebony.
Okay, so Ebony is someone Macy wrote about. She's a former felon, had a heroin-related conviction. She got a second chance working at a nail salon.
Okay.
But this salon specifically hired former felons, helped them with re-entry. And Ebony had this long-term dream. She wanted to become a nurse.
That's a big leap. Did she make it?
She did. It took 11 years, 3 tries at nursing school. But finally, she sends Macy this email, just all caps. I is a nurse, exclamation point.
Oh, that's fantastic. 11 years of perseverance.
Incredible. But here's the policy connection. She absolutely relied on programs like Medicaid and SNAP food stamps to survive while she was striving for that goal.
Programs that are often on the chopping block.
Exactly. And now Ebony works in drug rehab, her job. It's funded through the Medicaid expansion in Virginia. That expansion is a literal lifeline for people with substance use disorder.
Especially men, the source notes.
Yeah, men die from overdoses at 2 to 3 times the rate of women. So that Medicaid funding is crucial. Macy's warning is stark. Cutting these programs could send progress on the opioid crisis back 30 years.
So Ebony's story shows the potential when there is support. But you mentioned in another story, Silas, that shows the opposite. What happens when the support isn't there?
Right. Silas is kind of a heartbreaking counterpoint. He was this really bright kid, poor background, but teachers apparently called him the new Beth Macy. He was drum major, she'd been band president, lots of promise.
But he faced challenges.
Immense trauma. His dad died of an overdose. His mom struggled in and out of prison. Silas ended up homeless during high school.
God, that's so much for a kid to handle. Did he get any breaks?
He did get one seemingly big break. A full scholarship for a welding certificate at a community college.
Sounds great, right?
A pathway?
Yeah, sounds like exactly what he needed.
But the scholarship covered tuition, not life. Specifically, it didn't cover reliable transportation. And this was a rural community college.
So getting there was the problem.
A huge problem. Over the course of that 10-month program, he went through 5 different clunker cars. He had to juggle 4 different jobs just to keep gas in the tank and try to keep a car running.
5 cars and 4 jobs in 10 months just to use a scholarship he'd already earned.
Yeah, he made it through somehow. But he's only 20 now, and he's raising his 2 younger siblings. It just perfectly illustrates Macy's point. A scholarship alone is not enough.
Not when the basic scaffolding, like transportation, isn't there. The system itself creates these impossible hurdles.
Exactly. The support infrastructure that used to exist, or that we assume exists, has often been stripped away.
So after seeing all this, the division, the structural failures, the personal struggles, what's Macy's ultimate takeaway? What's the antidote?
It sounds simple, but maybe it isn't. It's about refusing to disconnect, staying in the conversation even when it's hard, getting involved locally, trying to rebuild that trust neighbor by neighbor.
Fighting against the urge to just retreat into bubbles?
Precisely. She talks about this fear, this sort of dystopian fear of ending up in these little separate districts, everyone all clustered with like-minded people, like in the Hunger Games.
That's a chilling image. So, okay, let's try to synthesize this deep dive. What are the core lessons from Urbana?
For me, it's seeing clearly how these big, abstract forces, media consolidation, shifts in education funding like the Pell Grant changes, policy choices around jobs and healthcare, the opioid crisis response, how they actually create real-world fragility and division in communities.
And that Urbana isn't unique. It's a warning sign for lots of places, right?
Absolutely. It's a national story playing out in a local setting. But it's not all despair, is it? There was that little anecdote you mentioned earlier.
Oh, right. The friend who read the book.
Yeah. The friend who read it and just said, I think I'm going to change my media diet.
Such a small thing, but it's about individual agency, isn't it? Choosing differently.
It is a conscious choice to maybe consume information differently, engage differently.
Which leads us to that final thought for you, the listener, building on that idea of small, deliberate actions.
Yeah, maybe think about this. What's one local thing? Maybe it's an institution, maybe it's just a relationship that you could invest a bit more time or focus in.
Something beyond the easy, often overwhelming national narratives. A way to maybe start rebuilding a little bit of that trust and connection right where you are, something to think about.
Grab Paper Girl by Beth Macy, now on sale, $23.95. Don't miss this chance and build good habits and achieve remarkable results. Buy now today.
Like and subscribe for more Bookhaven podcasts.